at a certain trick or certain point in the hand, as far as, you know, it could happen earlier in the hand, could happen right near the end, you know, probably tends to happen most in, you know, a 3, 4, 5 card ending, you know, toward the end of the hand, but, you know, not at any prescribed point, really, you know, it happens at the point where you are reduced down to one loser, and have your threats. So, so we can change the position from what was on your handout just a little bit, and give you a situation like this, where we are at a 5-card ending on a hand. And again, with the lead in the south, we can look at this position and say, okay. And again, keep in mind, it doesn't matter what the contract is here. It doesn't matter whether it was no trump or if we played in a suit and already drew trumps, because what you've essentially you've essentially turned this into a no trump situation, and in this case, the spade suit hasn't been attacked on this hand. So with the lead in the south, are the conditions here for a squeeze? So we need a squeeze card. Once again, that's going to be the ace of clubs, right? Because that's the only club left in the deck. And so south, when you play that, that is going to activate the problem, in this case, for west. So we have a squeeze card. Do we have menaces or threats? Yes, we do. The King of Hearts is a threat with the ace over here. The King of Hearts is not a winner yet, but West has the Ace of Hearts, and if that ace should happen to go away, the King would be a winner. We looked at 1 and 2 card menaces in the first diagram, but here with a 5-card ending, you could have a 3, or in this case, even a 4-card menace, right? And so that's what the spade suit is. This is a 4-card menace. The ace, king, and queen are sure winners, right? Well, I think one of the most fun parts of a squeeze is when your menace is a deuce. Yeah. Because the spot cards don't get any smaller than 2, and yet that 2 on this hand, I think, is quite likely going to be your 5th winner. Even when you are in a position of holding 4 winners and 1 losers, what happens to West? Oh, and by the way, so the rest of the conditions. We have an entry, right? You've got spades in your hand, so we know you can get to dummy. So entry's not a problem. And then the timing, we've already come down to the 1 loser position. So we have satisfied the 4 conditions we need for the squeeze to work, and now we execute it. So south, you play your ace of clubs. And I think in practice what most people are going to do, because let's face it, it's hard to part with an ace. I'm pretty sure that that West is going to pitch a spade, right? I mean, they know that that will create a situation where their jack and 10 will fall under the honors, and and that deuce is going to be a winner. But it seems like a better proposition than throwing away your ace. Okay, so you play your ace, and then let's say West just parts with a small spade. Of course, if West parts with the spade after heavy breathing and displaying agony, you'll probably know that the squeeze is working. If West parts with the spade smoothly, as if they don't have a care in the world, and they're looking at their cell phone, maybe the squeeze isn't working, and the Jack 10 4th of spades and Ace of Hearts are sitting over dummy, and the squeeze isn't working, right?
So then dummy squeezed.
So that's just it. So we need, in this situation, we need our left-hand opponent to have the cards that matter, and we need them to have all the cards that matter, right? Because if all we do is switch the hearts, right? Give righty the ace of hearts and give lefty the queen of hearts, well, now when you play the ace of clubs, they're going to throw their queen of hearts. Like, well, that's the only heart I have left, and the king is in dummy. It's not a winner. Might as well dump it and protect my spade, right? Now they don't have a problem. So you need those key cards in the same hand. So at this point, when you play your ace of clubs and the spade is pitched, and because declare you have thought this through, and you're like, well, you know, I need, and by the way, if spades were splitting 3-3, you never had anything to worry about anyhow, right? Your deuce of spades was always going to be a winner after ace, king, and queen were played. So you are catering specifically to the position where West started with 4 spades, so that the suit was not breaking, and West had the ace of hearts. So since you need that to be the position, you don't worry about East having 4 spades. You don't worry about East having the ace of hearts, because then none of this works anyhow. So if you're trying to get the squeeze to work, you just assume that those cards that you need to be in the West hand are in fact in the West hand. Therefore, when you play your ace of clubs and you see a spade pitch, go ahead and get rid of that. Throw away the king of hearts. If you don't see the ace of hearts appear, then either the squeeze isn't working or West has chosen to guard the heart and unguard the spade. So throw away your king of hearts. Go to dummy, cash 3 rounds of spades. You see 6, jack, 10, and fall, and lo and behold, the 2 is a winner. Not an error. They didn't make a mistake. Maybe there was a way earlier in the hand that their partner, maybe their partner was on lead and could have broken up this squeeze somehow by, say, leading a heart earlier or leading a spade earlier or something like that. But the fact of the matter is that didn't happen, and now here we are in the 5-card ending, and you are forced. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. Only declare can mess up the squeeze at that point, not the defender. Right? The funny thing is, I would bet that all of you at some point have executed a squeeze. You may just not have realized that you did it. Because you came down to a position where you thought you had nothing better to do than cash a bunch of winners, right? And think, yeah, maybe something good will happen. Maybe my opponent will make an erroneous discard and give me one more trick that I'm not entitled to. But maybe it was an error. maybe they had to give you that trick. All right, well, let's look at a full deal here. And I saved this one. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, played this hand 7 years ago. How about that? All right. I actually had the date in my notes. But yeah, we do want to give you a full deal. And this is mainly from the standpoint of realizing that you shouldn't abandon hope on a hand, even when it looks like it's going to be a really hard hand to make. And you don't always, sometimes it's kind of hard to envision where your winners are going to come from. In this case, I'm trying to find where's my H1 here. So you're in 3-0 on this hand. The South is declaring 3-0. Hopefully looks like a fairly normal contract to you. No bidding from the opponents, so no indication about where any missing honors are. And figure pretty straightforward auction, something like a club, a heart, 2-0, 3-0 kind of thing. So, we clearly we have the values to be there, right? We have enough to be in game. But as you look at these two hands, you're like, well, gee, we sure have the points to be in game, and 3-no looks like the spot because we don't have a major fit, and we're both balanced, and yet it's kind of difficult if you start counting winners, which is normally our approach in no trump. A little bit difficult to count 9 winners, isn't it, on a hand like this?
Mm-hmm.
But let's start off by doing that. Let's try and figure out where our tricks are going to come from, since we do need 9. So let's look at the spade suit first. How many sure winners?
2.
Just 2 sure winners, right? We want to start with that. Now, if the queen of spades is on side and we finesse the jack, that would get us to a 3rd winner in the spade suit. If the queen was on side and spades were 3-3, we could actually get 4 winners from the spade suit. But the queen being on side, that in itself is a 50-50 proposition. And for the queen to be on side and the suit to split 3-3, that's actually unlikely. That's when if we look at, we need both of those conditions. So getting 4 tricks in this suit naturally is actually going to be really difficult. My guess is you'll probably get either or, right? If it was just, okay, either the queen is on side, or even if it's not, if they're 3-3, if you know. So 2 sure tricks there, but we'll say 3 likely. We'll say 4 possible, but that's possible with an unlikely to it. That's a very friendly lie of the cards. And we want to look at sure winners to start off. Anyhow, so heart suit. Sure winners?
Uno.
Just 1. All right. What about diamonds? All right, your ace and king might turn the jack into a winner, right? But that's not a guaranteed thing. So 2 sure. We'll say 3 possible. Again, same thing. You know, maybe the diamonds are 3-3 and dummy's 4th diamond sets up. Maybe the queen of diamonds drops. By the way, hopefully you recognize that this is not a finesse situation because you are missing the 10, right? So you would never want to run the jack from dummy to see if right-hand opponent had the queen because you don't have the 10. So if the jack gets covered by the queen, you haven't helped your cause. And then clubs? 2. All right. Well, I count 7 sure tricks, which means you need to find 2 more tricks on this hand, and you are probably going to have a little bit of work to do. All right. The opening lead is a small heart. Actually, that can be, we'll say X. S could be a spade. All right. So they've led a heart, which, you know, unfortunately for you, appears to be the best lead for the defense. So North, you by bidding a heart, you did not scare them off, and your hearts aren't great. You've got the ace. The rest of the spot cards are not anything to behold, and you don't have any of the intermediate honors in there. So, well, let's see. How is this thing going to go? All right, small heart. Might as well duck the opening lead, right? You're going to have a couple of heart losers. Now, by the way, this kind of goes hand in hand with if you're really looking ahead, and this is why we say, you know, you want to give that dummy a good study at trick 1, and not just be thinking about, you know, what are you playing at trick 1, but be thinking about the whole hand and say, well, they've gotten off to the right lead, and it looks like I'm probably going to have some heart losers anyhow. When you're playing in no trump, and part of the reason for this, there are multiple reasons for this in no trump, one of which would be potentially looking toward a squeeze down the road. If you have tricks to lose them early. Not just because you might set up a squeeze, but It's also part of that process of like hold up plays where you're severing communications between defenders and things like that. All right. So let's say you duck the first heart and your right hand opponent shows up with the queen. And let's say at trick 2, East just returns a heart.